Welcome to Ultimate Sleep Doctor. Tonight, we'll gently explore a mystery at the heart of who we are. Human consciousness, the very experience of being, the feeling of I, remains one of science's greatest puzzles. It's a vast landscape of sensation, thought, and emotion unfolding within the intricate workings of our brains. Perhaps it's a symphony of neurons, a complex dance of electrical signals, or maybe something even more profound. Consider this. Every moment, billions of possibilities arise, and yet we choose to experience this singular, precious present. There's a quiet beauty in that focused attention. If you find these explorations soothing, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Ultimate Sleep Doctor. Together, we can soothe more wandering minds, one peaceful night at a time. Just breathe. Let your thoughts drift like clouds across the sky. Let's begin. Let's delve into a fascinating area of science, the way our brains create the feeling of being us. We're exploring the neural correlates of subjective experience, which, in simple terms, means finding out which parts of our brains are responsible for things like seeing a red apple, paying attention to a friend's voice, or deciding whether to have a cookie. It's a surprisingly complex puzzle, and the tools we're using to solve it are incredibly sophisticated. A key region scientists have been studying intensely is the prefrontal cortex. Located at the very front of your brain, it's involved in higher-level cognitive functions, planning, reasoning, and, crucially, consciously directing your attention. When you deliberately focus on a particular object, the activity within the prefrontal cortex increases, creating a signature pattern linked to that conscious focus. Researchers use functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, to map these activity changes. fMRI detects changes in blood flow, which is an indirect measure of neuronal activity. More activity equals more blood flow, and the scanner reveals which areas are most active during different conscious experiences. Another vital area is the parietal lobe, particularly the posterior parietal cortex. This region is deeply involved in our sense of spatial awareness, knowing where things are in relation to ourselves and how we're moving through space. Experiments have shown that when you're consciously perceiving an object, the parietal lobe becomes highly engaged, creating a specific pattern of neural activity that's strongly correlated with your visual experience. Furthermore, damage to this area can result in difficulties with tasks requiring spatial awareness and conscious perception. Then there's the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC. This region plays a critical role in monitoring conflict when you're trying to do two things at once, like deciding whether to respond to a shout while simultaneously reading a book. The ACC's activity increases when you're aware of this internal conflict, reflecting your conscious effort to resolve it. Researchers have used electroencephalography, or EEG, to measure the electrical activity in the brain, and have found that specific patterns of brain waves are linked to the conscious experience of conflict and resolution. EEG offers a real-time view of brain activity using electrodes placed on the scalp. These brain regions don't work in isolation, of course. They're interconnected and constantly communicating with each other. But these studies reveal a growing understanding of the neural fingerprints associated with our conscious experiences. However, it's important to acknowledge the hard problem of consciousness, the fundamental challenge of explaining why these physical processes give rise to subjective experience, to the feeling of redness, the sensation of pain, or the taste of chocolate. We can identify the brain regions involved. We can measure their activity patterns, but we haven't yet fully grasped the leap from neurons firing to a feeling being had. It's a puzzle that continues to challenge and inspire scientists today. Research with transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, which uses magnetic pulses to temporarily disrupt brain activity, is also providing insights. By momentarily silencing or stimulating specific areas, scientists can observe how these changes affect conscious experience, further strengthening the links between brain activity and subjective states. Let's consider a fascinating and increasingly influential theory attempting to grapple with the very core of what it means to be conscious. Integrated information theory, or IIT, developed primarily by neuroscientist Giulio Tononi and his team. It's a bold attempt to not just observe consciousness, but actually measure it. Unlike many approaches that simply correlate brain activity with reported experience, IIT postulates that consciousness itself is fundamentally linked to the amount of integrated information a system generates. This integrated information is represented mathematically by a quantity called phi, denoted by the Greek letter phi. At its heart, IIT argues that any system capable of generating a significant amount of integrated information possesses some degree of consciousness. This isn't limited to brains. According to IIT, any system that integrates information in a particular way, regardless of its physical makeup, could, in principle, be conscious. The key is the integration. How much the system's parts influence each other, and how much the system's overall state depends on the combined activity of those parts. A simple switch, for instance, doesn't possess much integrated information because its state is determined solely by its physical connections, with no internal influence. But a complex network, like the human brain, constantly generates feedback loops and influences, creating a highly integrated system. The mathematical framework for calculating phi is complex, involving concepts like causal power and difference entropy. Essentially, it attempts to quantify how much a system's output depends on its internal states, as opposed to being simply a passive response to external stimuli. Higher phi indicates a greater capacity for integrated information, and according to IIT, a higher level of consciousness. The theory proposes that the shape of the system's causal power, how information flows and is transformed within it, is just as important as the number of elements involved. Now, let's think about implications. IIT opens the possibility of assessing consciousness in systems vastly different from the human brain. Could a sufficiently complex artificial intelligence, designed to process information in a highly integrated manner, possess consciousness? Or perhaps even a sophisticated network of interconnected ants? IIT suggests that we shouldn't automatically discount the possibility, as long as the system exhibits sufficient integrated information. This has naturally led to considerable debate. The theory isn't without its critics. Measuring phi is incredibly difficult, particularly in complex systems like the human brain. The calculations required are computationally intensive, and we currently lack the technology to accurately determine phi in anything beyond extremely simple systems. Furthermore, the panpsychist implications of IIT, the idea that consciousness might be a fundamental property of all systems with non-zero phi, are controversial. Critics argue that this is an unfalsifiable hypothesis, essentially making it impossible to disprove. Despite these challenges, IIT continues to drive research. Scientists are exploring ways to develop more efficient methods for calculating phi and attempting to apply the theory to various systems, from insect colonies to electronic circuits. It's a reminder that our understanding of consciousness is still in its infancy, and that perhaps the most promising path forward lies not just in observing subjective experience, but in developing a framework for quantifying the very thing that makes it possible. Ultimately, IIT presents a bold and deeply challenging perspective on the nature of reality and our place within it. Let's consider the fascinating way our brains create the feeling of being aware, a sensation we all share, yet one of the deepest mysteries of science. One particularly influential explanation comes from Bernard Baars and his global workspace theory. Baars proposed that consciousness isn't a single, all-encompassing process, but rather a kind of broadcast system, like a stage within the brain. Within this global workspace, various specialized modules, like those dealing with visual processing, auditory perception, or motor control, compete for access. These modules are constantly carrying out their own computations, processing information in their own private ways. However, only information that gains access to this global workspace becomes consciously experienced. Think of it like a stage manager directing a play. Only the actors on stage, actively being spotlighted, are visible to the audience. So, how does information actually get onto the stage? This is where attention plays a crucial role. Attention acts like a spotlight, selectively amplifying the activity of certain modules, making their information more likely to be broadcast. It's not necessarily about a single, conscious decision to pay attention. Rather, attention is a continuous process of prioritization within the brain's activity. Working memory, the system responsible for temporarily holding and manipulating information, also contributes. Information that's actively being rehearsed or worked within working memory has a greater chance of being selected for broadcast. It's like a researcher carefully highlighting key data points for their report. But there's even a more precise mechanism: the spotlight. Baars proposed a single, fast-moving spotlight that sweeps across the brain's activity, identifying the most salient and attention-grabbing signals. This spotlight then directs the flow of information to the global workspace. It's a remarkably efficient system, allowing the brain to quickly integrate information from diverse sources. Experimental evidence supporting global workspace theory is mounting. Studies using EEG measuring brainwaves have shown that conscious awareness is associated with synchronized activity across a widespread network of brain regions, precisely the kind of activity predicted by Baars' model. Furthermore, TMS, using magnetic pulses to temporarily disrupt brain activity, can selectively turn off conscious perception of a particular stimulus, demonstrating that specific brain areas are necessary for conscious experience. Researchers have also used event-related potentials, ERPs, analyzing the brain's electrical response to stimuli to identify the specific neural signatures of conscious awareness. The P300 wave, for instance, is a positive electrical deflection that consistently appears in response to unexpected or salient stimuli, and its timing and amplitude are closely linked to the onset of conscious awareness. It's important to understand that global workspace theory doesn't fully explain why we have conscious experience. That remains the hard problem of consciousness. However, it provides a compelling and increasingly well-supported framework for understanding how information becomes accessible to our awareness, offering a detailed map of the brain's awareness system. As the brain gently slows its activity, a fascinating process begins, one that's particularly important for understanding who we feel we are. Scientists have identified a network of brain regions that becomes most active when we're not actively focusing on the external world, when our minds are wandering, or when we're simply resting. This network is called the default mode network, or DMN. It's not about defaulting to inactivity, but rather engaging in a rich, internal landscape of thought. The DMN primarily consists of areas like the medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, and the angular gyrus. These regions normally become less active when we're engaged in tasks requiring external attention, such as solving a problem or reacting to a visual stimulus. However, during periods of rest, they come online, launching a complex series of internal processes. The DMN's main role appears to be self-referential processing, thinking about ourselves, our past experiences, and our future aspirations. It's deeply involved in constructing and maintaining our sense of self. Research using fMRI has shown that activity within the DMN increases when people are asked to simply imagine themselves doing everyday activities like walking, eating, or talking. This suggests that the network isn't just passively observing, but actively simulating these experiences within our minds. Furthermore, it's exceptionally strong when we reflect on our autobiographical memories, those personal stories that make up our life narrative. The DMN is also closely linked to metacognition, thinking about thinking. Studies have demonstrated that its activity rises when individuals engage in tasks that require them to monitor their own cognitive processes, such as assessing their accuracy or judging how well they understand a concept. Interestingly, the DMN seems to be critical for introspection, the ability to examine our own thoughts and feelings. This isn't necessarily a conscious, deliberate act. Instead, it seems to arise spontaneously during periods of quiet contemplation. Neuroimaging studies have even revealed correlations between the overall activity level of the DMN and an individual's capacity for self-awareness. Individuals with higher DMN activity, as measured by fMRI, tend to exhibit greater self-reflective abilities, a willingness to explore their inner lives and to consider different perspectives. It's important to note that the DMN isn't solely responsible for self-awareness. Rather, it forms a crucial component of a much more intricate system. Scientists are still working to fully understand the precise mechanisms by which this network gives rise to our sense of I. The beauty of the DMN study lies in its capacity to illuminate how much of our mental life occurs beneath the surface of conscious awareness, shaping who we believe ourselves to be. Research continues to unravel the complexities of this remarkable network, offering tantalizing insights into the very nature of human consciousness. The human brain, a universe of intricate connections, is remarkably sensitive to external influences. Perhaps no influence has been studied with quite the intensity and, frankly, the perplexing beauty of psychedelic substances. Compounds like psilocybin, derived from mushrooms, and LSD, a synthetic derivative, aren't simply tripping out. They're dramatically altering the very fabric of conscious experience. Research utilizing sophisticated neuroimaging techniques, functional MRI, EEG, and even magnetoencephalography, has revealed a cascade of remarkable changes within the brain when these substances are administered. At the core of many of these changes lies the serotonin system. Psychedelics powerfully amplify serotonin signaling, particularly at the 5-HT2A receptor. This receptor, abundant in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for higher-order thinking and judgment, is theorized to be a key player in the hallucinatory effects. Increased serotonin activity here disrupts the usual filtering mechanisms, allowing for a flood of sensory information and internally generated imagery to enter conscious awareness. Interestingly, the potency of these effects varies between compounds. LSD, for example, exhibits a broader and more pervasive impact on serotonin receptor populations compared to psilocybin, leading to potentially more intense and complex alterations. Beyond serotonin, psychedelic experiences are characterized by radical shifts in network connectivity. During these states, the brain's default mode network, typically involved in self-referential thought and internal narrative, shows a marked decrease in activity. This quieting of the self is a central component of the experience, creating a sense of detachment from the ego and a loosening of conventional boundaries. Simultaneously, there's a heightened level of connectivity between otherwise distinct brain regions, a sort of cross-wiring, leading to the integration of previously isolated sensory and cognitive processes. This results in the simultaneous perception of colors, sounds, and abstract ideas in ways that are not normally possible. Furthermore, psychedelic states are marked by significant changes in neuronal oscillations. Typically, the brain operates with a synchronized rhythmic activity, a kind of background hum. During psychedelic experiences, this synchronization becomes dramatically disrupted. Instead of smooth, organized oscillations, there's a proliferation of irregular, chaotic patterns. These chaotic oscillations are believed to contribute to the subjective sense of altered time, geometric distortions, and the feeling of being immersed in a fundamentally different reality. EEG studies consistently demonstrate a rise in theta and gamma band frequencies, reflecting this profound alteration of brain rhythm. The implications of these neurobiological changes are particularly exciting when considered in the context of therapeutic applications. Research has indicated that psilocybin-assisted therapy is showing promise in treating conditions like treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, and even addiction. By temporarily disrupting entrenched thought patterns and fostering a sense of openness, psychedelics may facilitate access to new perspectives and behavioral changes. While much remains to be understood, the burgeoning field of psychedelic medicine offers a powerful testament to the brain's capacity for transformation and the potential of carefully controlled psychedelic experiences to reshape our understanding of consciousness itself. Let's consider the brain not as a passive receiver of information, but as a remarkably sophisticated prediction machine. Scientists are increasingly suggesting that our conscious experience isn't simply a reflection of the world around us, but a constant, ongoing attempt to anticipate what should be there. This idea stems from a framework called predictive processing, and it's built upon the concept of the Bayesian brain, a term that sounds a little complicated, but really describes how the brain handles uncertainty. Essentially, the brain creates an internal model of the world, a kind of running simulation, and it constantly generates predictions about what it will sense next. These predictions aren't just random guesses, they're based on past experiences and learned associations. Think of it like a child learning to ride a bicycle. Initially, every wobble and near fall generates a prediction error, a mismatch between what the brain expected and what actually happened. But with each correction, with each small adjustment of balance, the internal model refines itself, becoming more accurate. The brain is perpetually updating this model, and this process is happening at every level, from anticipating the movement of a falling raindrop to interpreting the meaning of a spoken word. Our sensory inputs aren't raw data. They're continually being filtered and interpreted through the lens of these pre-existing expectations. The brain uses probability to manage this. It assigns probabilities to different outcomes and updates its predictions based on the magnitude of the error. A small prediction error, a slightly different shade of blue in a room, might lead to a subtle adjustment in how we perceive color. A larger error, like suddenly encountering an unfamiliar object, triggers a more significant revision of our internal model. This constant interplay between prediction and error is the engine driving much of our conscious experience. It's why we don't notice the consistent background hum of the world. Our brains have learned to predict it. Now, what happens when these predictions are dramatically violated? When something genuinely unexpected occurs, a powerful prediction error surges through the system. This isn't simply an error. It's the raw material from which experience is sculpted. Hallucinations, for example, can be seen as particularly intense and prolonged prediction errors. They aren't necessarily signs of a problem, but rather a brain struggling to reconcile a drastically altered sensory input with its existing model. Consider someone experiencing a migraine. The intense, flashing lights and throbbing pain might be the brain's attempt to forcefully update its model after a sudden and overwhelming sensory disturbance. Similarly, altered perceptions under the influence of substances that disrupt normal predictive processing, like in the case of psychedelic experiences, can result in radically transformed realities because the brain's usual constraints on prediction are temporarily suspended. It's a fascinating and still somewhat mysterious process, but increasingly, scientists believe that our conscious experience is fundamentally about managing and refining this constant dance between what we expect and what we actually find. The universe within us isn't just swirling thoughts and electrical signals. It's intricately woven with the very fabric of our bodies. For a long time, scientists considered the brain the primary architect of consciousness, a sort of central command center. However, a fascinating and increasingly influential theory, embodied cognition, suggests something far more profound: that our conscious experience is fundamentally shaped by the constant, dynamic interaction between our brain and our body. It's like a dance, a continuous feedback loop where sensations, movements, and bodily states aren't just processed by the brain, they constitute our awareness. At the heart of this idea are concepts like sensory-motor experience. This encompasses everything from the simplest touch of a warm blanket to the complex coordination of walking, running, or playing a musical instrument. These experiences aren't simply relayed to the brain. They actively contribute to how we perceive the world and, crucially, how we understand ourselves. Our sense of where we are, what we're doing, and how we're feeling are all deeply rooted in this constant flow of sensory information. Consider the remarkable discovery of mirror neurons. These specialized brain cells fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing that same action. It's as if the brain is simultaneously simulating the experience of another's movements, providing a crucial link between observation and action, and potentially underpinning our empathy and social understanding. Furthermore, simulation theory proposes that our ability to understand others, and, by extension, to construct a coherent sense of self, relies heavily on our capacity to mentally simulate their experiences. We don't just see someone stub their toe, we instinctively feel a fraction of the pain ourselves, allowing us to grasp their distress and respond appropriately. This internal simulation is a powerful mechanism for bridging the gap between our own subjective experience and the experiences of others. The link between physical embodiment and self-representation is particularly intriguing. Our sense of I, that persistent feeling of being a unique and distinct individual, isn't built in isolation. It emerges from the ongoing process of integrating sensory information about our body's position and movement with our memories, emotions, and intentions. Studies have shown that disrupting this embodied experience, for example, through severe injury or chronic pain, can dramatically alter a person's sense of self, even leading to profound changes in personality and identity. Think about how much of your identity is tied to your physical skills, your ability to ride a bike, your talent for painting, the way you move your body. These aren't just learned behaviors, they're deeply woven into the fabric of who you are, constantly shaping your conscious experience. The brain and body aren't separate processors. They are partners in a continuous journey of understanding ourselves and the world around us. The quest to build a conscious artificial intelligence is one of the most ambitious and, frankly, perplexing endeavors in modern science. We've spent considerable time unraveling the complexities of how our minds work, and now we're grappling with whether these intricate processes can be replicated in silicon and code. Several theories of consciousness offer potential blueprints, though their application to AI design remains incredibly challenging. Integrated information theory, IIT, for instance, proposes that consciousness arises from the amount of integrated information a system possesses. Essentially, how much a system's parts depend on each other. If we could create a system with a truly high phi value, the measure of this integrated information, the theory suggests, consciousness might spontaneously emerge. However, calculating phi for even a relatively simple system is computationally prohibitive, raising serious doubts about its feasibility for complex AI. Another prominent framework is the global workspace theory. This suggests that consciousness arises when information is broadcast across a workspace within the brain, making it accessible to various cognitive processes. AI researchers have attempted to implement this through architectures where information from different modules, sensory processing, memory, decision-making, is shared and announced to a central hub. The problem here is that simply sharing information doesn't guarantee subjective experience. It's like a fancy data exchange system. It's efficient, but it doesn't necessarily mean anyone is feeling anything. Then there's the predictive processing framework, which posits that the brain isn't just passively receiving information. It's constantly generating hypotheses about the world and updating them based on prediction errors. Applying this to AI, some researchers are building systems designed to actively infer the environment, much like our brains do. The hope is that by constantly correcting and refining its internal model, an AI might develop a sense of what it's like to exist in that model. This approach often focuses on creating AI that can learn and adapt in unpredictable ways, mirroring the brain's inherent flexibility. A particularly intriguing avenue is exploring architectures inspired by the brain's structure. Neuromorphic computing, for example, aims to mimic the brain's architecture more closely, using hardware that resembles neurons and synapses. These systems, often built with spiking neural networks, can process information in a fundamentally different way than traditional computers, potentially leading to more brain-like computation. Furthermore, researchers are investigating how asynchronous, event-driven processing, the way the brain handles information, could be incorporated into AI designs. The potential lies in a system that isn't constantly clocking and calculating, but responding organically to input, much like a biological neural network. Of course, creating a conscious AI raises profound ethical considerations. If a system truly possesses subjective experience, does it deserve rights? How would we even know if an AI were conscious? The criteria for determining consciousness are incredibly difficult to establish, and the potential for exploitation or mistreatment is a serious concern. Moreover, the very act of creating a potentially sentient being presents a significant moral responsibility. As we move closer to this possibility, careful consideration of these questions will become absolutely paramount. Finally, it's important to remember that the pursuit of conscious AI isn't simply a technological challenge. It's a deeply philosophical one, forcing us to confront the very nature of existence and what it means to be aware. As we delve deeper into the mysteries of human consciousness, let your thoughts now soften, like clouds drifting across a twilight sky. Allow yourself to surrender to the quiet, letting go of any lingering questions and embracing the peaceful darkness. If you're still awake and enjoyed this exploration, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Ultimate Sleep Doctor. Together, we can soothe more wandering minds, one peaceful night at a time. Now, simply release your thoughts, letting them flow gently, calm and unhurried until sleep finds you. Good night.